Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, I want to show you a couple of cards from Pokemon that haven't actually had cards before. So let's take a look at the very first ever Thievul and the very first ever Dubwool. Now, apologies first of all from me to Thievul. You see, when I played through Pokemon Sword, which is the first one I went through, I put Thievul on my team with every intention of keeping it there right until the Elite Four, or the equivalent thereof. And then he got cut from the team. And then I started going through Pokemon Shield, and I had another one, and I thought, no, this time I am definitely going to keep him in my team right up until the Elite Four, or the equivalent thereof. I didn't. I cut him. I feel a bit mean. Sorry, Thievul. But maybe the first card you've ever had will be awesome. The fact that Thievul hasn't had his own video doesn't bode well. So starting off, we got 100 HP on a stage 1, which is frankly low. We got plenty of basic Pokemon like Hooper that have more, or indeed Zapdos that have more. 100 HP on a stage 1 is low. Weakness to grass is honestly fine. Weldenex are keeping him in check right now. And a retreat cost of 1 means U-turn board. Yay, etc. And you're a darkness type, so you can use Black Market Prism Star so you don't actually give up a prize. And you're hitting weakness against ghost Pokemon like Giratina. And indeed newer psychic Pokemon, Sun and Moon psychic Pokemon like, for instance, indeed EV. Okay, cool. What do you do? Well, our translations come from the lovely David Hockman over at limitlesstcg.com/translations. He is a very lovely man. He helps us out very much indeed. And according to the lovely David Hockman, the first attack here for 1 Darkness Energy does 20 damage, and you look at your opponent's hand, and you put a card you find there on the bottom of your opponent's deck. Now, here's the thing. I actually like this attack. Now, maybe your opponent's playing Looker, and if your opponent's playing Looker, they get to draw 3 cards from the bottom of their deck and draw it straight away. And of course, there's always Looker Whistle that lets you search your deck for 2 Looker and put them into your hand. There are downsides, ladies and gentlemen, to doing this, but most people aren't playing Looker at the moment. Even the people playing Aura and Guru that lets you take any 3 cards from your discard pile and put them on the bottom of your deck, even they're not playing Looker most of the time. Okay. And this is good hand disruption, because it is any card from your opponent's hand, any card you like. So if you know they really need a triple acceleration energy to attack next turn, take it. If you look at their hand and they've only got 1 supporter and it's a Cynthia, take it. Put it on the bottom of their deck. But you're not discarding it. Discarding a triple acceleration energy is awesome because your opponent can only put 4 of them in their deck. And since Special Charge rotated, we don't actually have any real ways to recover them at the moment. Not good, easy to use universal ways. But putting it on the bottom of their deck, they'll find it later. If they go and find themselves a Guzma and Hala, they can just search it out next turn. And okay, to be fair, you force them to use a Guzma and Hala that they maybe otherwise wouldn't need to. But if they use Guzma and Hala and find it and KO you, does it really matter? It starts getting a bit awkward. Now, compare this to something like the Inteleon that came out in the V-Decks, that for a single colourless energy does 40 damage and discard a random card from your opponent's hand. And it's getting a bit weird now. Because on the one hand, we like discarding way more than putting on the bottom of our opponent's deck. But on the other hand, we like being able to potentially get rid of them for the game. My biggest issue with this attack is this. When am I using it? Like, seriously, it's a stage 1. And it's only doing 20 damage, so it's not like I'm going to be taking huge KOs with this. And it's a stage 1, so I've had to have it down for a turn and then evolved it. So what am I actually doing here? And the answer is I don't know. Maybe I go first, my opponent has a turn, they've still had the first attack, and then I go? Maybe that would work. But the problem is that it's too late. By the time this works, it's too late. And you're sitting there doing 200 damage, and maybe, right, here's the best case scenario. Maybe you keep hitting that one card your opponent really needs. Maybe you keep hitting that one card that your opponent needs to carry on in the game, and then you're discarding it, and then your opponent isn't able to come back. And over time, you just get rid of all your opponent's cards. And maybe, ladies and gentlemen, maybe that will work. But I am not entirely sure that it will. And that's kind of my issue here. By the time I've got to turn 2, and I've evolved, I want more than this. If it was discarding a card from your opponent's hand and you knew what card it was for 1 energy on a stage 1, maybe. But it's even for a darkness energy, so it's got to be used in a darkness deck. And let's not worry about the second attack. Darkness, double colourless, 90 damage. I mean, look, it's an evolved Pokemon. You can use triple acceleration energy. And now psychic Pokemon are weak to darkness. And Indeed EV looks really good, and this will get a one-hit KO on Indeed EV. But it's for a darkness and a triple acceleration energy on a stage 1. I mean, maybe. But can you really honestly tell me you'd rather play this than Hooper, that can probably also get a one-hit KO, but it's a basic, and it's for a single colourless energy? Yeah. Sorry. But maybe Dubwool will fill our hearts with a little more joy. Well, the good news is it's got 130 HP, so that's less embarrassing. The retreat cost of 2 is awkward, but now that we're getting Balloon, which reduces your retreat cost by 2, we're okay with it. The weakness of fighting is less good because more Pico V is crushing at the moment, and that means anyone hitting them for weakness will be hitting you for weakness. And actually, you're a colourless Pokemon, which means you don't have any extra tricks or any of that rubbish, so that's getting kind of annoying. Okay, not off to the best of starts here. But maybe the attacks. Cotton Guard. 1 colourless energy, 30 damage. During your opponent's next turn, any damage done to this Pokemon by attacks is reduced by 30. It's not bad. I mean, this is the kind of attack, right? You want to take a KO with it. The goal here should be, I'm taking a KO. Oh, look. Now I take 30 less from attacks next turn. And you've got 130 HP, which is respectable. Weirdly enough, this is essentially exactly the same as Leaf Guard that we saw on Jumpluff back in Heart Gold Soul Silver, which was one of the best Pokemon in the game at the time. And that was a stage 2, this is a stage 1. Here's the thing. Jumpluff had Mass Attack, which did 10 damage for each Pokemon in play, yours and your opponent's. Had free retreat as well, incidentally. But it was really Mass Attack here that was crucial and key. You didn't really use Leaf Guard unless you could get a KO. And when you were playing Jumpluff, the theory was smash with Mass Attack. But if you end up in a situation where you can get a KO with this, cool. Give yourself a bit more beef, maybe you'll survive next turn. And that's where we are with Dubwool here. You do 30 damage, and then you take 30 less next turn. You give yourself that little bit more survivability, and you've got 130 HP. So after using this, your opponent's basically got to do 160 to get a KO. And maybe you don't take a KO with this. Maybe you can use this to put your opponent in range of being KO'd, and then survive. So instead of doing a bunch of damage and then just getting KO'd right back, you do a bit of damage, your opponent is in KO range, but then they can't KO you, and that puts you ahead in the prize race. And maybe, I don't mind this attack, but we need a good attack with which to pair it. Well, what we have is free colourless energy, 120, and you do 30 to yourself. And there's 2 things I dislike about this. Firstly, doing 30 to yourself kind of makes a mockery of the whole Cotton Guard thing. And don't get me wrong, I know both of these attacks fit the kind of stuff that Dubwool does in the video game. I understand the synergy. But the fact of the matter is here that you've got one attack which is like, yay, I've got a bit more beef, and then another attack which is all like, oh no, I done hurt myself. And you're only doing 120 and you don't hit for weakness. Now, against non-GXs, this will sometimes be fine, but then you come up against a Buzzwole, 130 HP, Naganadel, 130 HP. Giratina, 130 HP. You constantly come up against 130 HP Pokemon that you can't KO. And if you were hitting for weakness, let's say you're hitting fire weakness. Hey, that amazing Zacian V, yeah, he's going down in one hit. That's quite nice. One of the best cards in the game. Fighting weakness, you'd be smashing more Pico V. That would be cool. Water weakness, well, you'd be a little bit short of Reshiram and Charizard, but you wouldn't be far off. My problem here is you're hitting nothing for weakness, and you're 10 damage short of where you need to be with a lot of stuff. And I know we're getting Vitality banned, and that'll let you do an extra 10 damage, but bearing in mind we're already basically forced into using triple acceleration energy. Do we really want to be forced into using Vitality Band as well? Now, don't get me wrong, right? You can use any energy acceleration here because it is colourless. You can use Welder, you can use Malamar, but if I'm using Malamar, I'm attacking with Giratina, who's got the great ability, actually does 130, and is a basic. And if I'm using Welder, I'm using stuff like Reshiram and Charizard. Or I'm using stuff like Volcano. There's like a million other Pokemon I'd rather use. So I can use those types of energy acceleration, but I don't really want to. To be fair, even triple acceleration energy, I think we've got better options. It's not that I dislike Dubwool. Although, let's face it, Wooloo's way cuter. It's that I just don't think it's particularly special. I don't think there's anything about this card that makes me have to play it. Sure, there's going to be pre-releases where you use Cotton Guard for a couple turns and then take 3 straight prizes with Double Edge to win. But I don't know if anyone's ever going to want to use this in Standard. At the risk of sounding overly mean and harsh, and I apologise to Dubwool for this, there is nothing special about it. Sorry about that. Let's give both of these Pokemon between 2 and 3 Wassies. We don't give half Wassies, that would be barbaric. To be fair, Dubwool is significantly better than Thievul, but I look at both of these and go, they're alright. But I don't think they're ever going to see a huge amount of play or success. But I'd like to know what you think. So let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassiePlays, where we talk about a whole bunch of games that don't have Pokemon in, but do have awesome. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.